Hello and welcome. Today, we are going to tackle what can feel like a really complex topic, the CSSF U1.1 reporting. We're going to break down the official guidelines into a simple, clear explainer to help you get it right every single time.
So, you've been tasked with preparing and submitting a U1.1 report. It can feel a bit daunting at first. The fields, the statuses, the file formats, it's a lot to keep track of. But the logic behind it all is actually very straightforward, and our goal here is to give you a clear and simple path through the entire process.
Here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute basics, what this report even is. Then, we'll dissect its structure, piece by piece. After that, we'll get into the super important decision of picking your reporting status, cover the practical steps of actually sending the file, and finally, we'll learn how to understand the feedback you get back from the CSSF.
Okay, first things first. Let's build the foundation. What is the whole point of this report anyway?
Well, the report is all about something called an Undertaking for Collective Investment, or UCI. Essentially, this is just any fund that's been authorized by Luxembourg's financial regulator, the CSSF. So the U1.1 report, it's simply the way that fund gives the CSSF a required monthly snapshot of its financial health. The key word here is transparency.
Now for the main event, the report itself. I wanted to think of it like a financial blueprint, one that's built in 6 distinct sections. Each part logically builds on the last one, creating a complete picture for the CSSF. So let's walk through that blueprint together.
Section 1 really sets the stage. It's all about the who, what, and when. You're telling them the reporting period, the status of the report, and don't worry, we'll dive deep into that in a minute. Who is sending it, and who the CSSF should call if they have questions. It's basically the administrative cover page for all the juicy data that's about to come.
Next up, Section 2 is all about the fund's identity. Here you'll put in the unique CSSF code for the specific fund or subfund, its official name, its base currency, and its launch date, which, by the way, is officially the very first day a subscription was received. This section makes it crystal clear exactly which fund we're talking about. Section 3 gives us that 30,000-foot view of the fund's money, and what's really key here is how it shows the flow. You start with last month's net asset value, or NAV. Then you add the money coming in from new shares, subtract the money going out from redemptions, and that brings you to this month's NAV. It's a perfect high-level summary of the fund's activity.
Okay, now let's look at sections 4 and 5, because this is where we zoom in. After that big picture view, these sections drill down into the nitty-gritty of each individual share class. Section 4 covers the static stuff, like its unique code and currency. Then, Section 5 gives you the financial numbers for that specific share class, like how many units are out there and the NAV per share. And you just repeat this for every single share class you have. And finally, Section 6. This completes our blueprint. Think of this as the fund's profit and loss statement for the month. It carefully breaks down all the income sources, dividends, interest, and so on, and all the expenses like management fees and taxes. But crucially, it also includes the realized and unrealized profit or loss, giving you that full performance picture.
Right, we've got our blueprint. Now let's talk about one of the most important decisions you'll make when you're filling this thing out, selecting the correct reporting status. This choice is a big deal because it determines exactly which data fields you have to fill in.
You've got 3 choices for your report status: null, provisional, or final. Each one maps to a very specific situation the fund is in, so getting this right is absolutely key for a successful submission.
First on the list is the null report. This is for funds that exist on paper but have zero financial activity. So think of a brand new fund that's authorized but hasn't gotten its first subscription yet, or maybe a fund that's been temporarily put on hold. For a null report, you only fill out the basic ID info. All those financial sections, you just leave them empty. Easy.
Next is the provisional report. This is your go-to when the submission deadline is getting close, but you just don't have the official final numbers yet. This happens a lot with funds that calculate their NAV less often, say quarterly or annually. You just submit the report with your best estimates, but, and this is important, you have to follow up with a final report once those official figures are locked down.
And that brings us to the final report, which is the one you'll use most of the time. This is for when your data is based on official numbers for the month. But what about a fund that only calculates its official NAV quarterly? Well, for those 2 months in between, you still submit a final report, but you use your best estimated data. The big difference from a provisional report is that this is the one and only report for that month. You aren't planning to replace it later.
So, you've built your blueprint, you've chosen your status. Now how do you actually get this thing to the CSSF? This next part is all about the practical mechanics of getting it submitted.
Now here's a really important distinction to understand, the difference between the reporting declarant and the sender. The declarant is the one who's ultimately on the hook for the data being accurate. Usually, that's the nav administrator, but they can delegate the actual technical job of sending the file to another company, the sender. Just remember, even if you delegate, the buck always stops with the declarant.
Before you hit send, the file itself needs a very specific name. And honestly, this name perfectly shows the level of detail they require. The XML file name is basically a structured code. It has the report type, the sender's ID, the fund's CSSF codes, the reporting period, and a unique timestamp. Getting this name right is literally the first hurdle to a successful submission.
The file itself has to be a UTF-8 encoded XML, and you've got two official ways to send it: an API, which is great for automated machine-to-machine submissions, or the CSF's eDesk portal, where you can just manually upload the file and keep an eye on its status. You've sent the file. Whew! So what happens next? Well, the CSF system gives you automated feedback. Let's quickly decode what those responses mean so you can fix things fast if you need to. There are two main flavors of bad news to watch for. If your report gets rejected, that's a hard stop. It's a technical problem, like a typo in the file name. The system didn't even look at your data. An error, on the other hand, means the file got in the door, but the data inside is wrong. For example, maybe your NAV calculation doesn't add up based on the flows you reported. That means you've got to fix the data and send it again.
And there we have it, the U1.1 report, completely demystified. From its basic purpose and blueprint structure all the way to choosing the right status and reading the feedback, you now have the framework to tackle this with a ton of clarity and confidence. The only question left is, what's your next report going to be?